Epitalon Peptide benefits. So there's a 15-year human data set, 79 elderly patients. They all had coronary disease. And they looked at the peptide Epitalon, and they wanted to find out if it could reduce the cardiovascular mortality. And what they found, that this peptide, Epitalon, actually reduced the cardiovascular mortality twofold, and mortality by 28% relative to controls receiving identical standard therapies. So no other peptide in longevity medicine has a longer duration of human data set, but most practitioners have never even read about it. Most people just kind of brush it away because it's 4 amino acids. It sits in this little category called bioregulators. In large part, the majority of the research has been done in Russia. But today in this video, I'll dissect what Epitalon does, why it may be beneficial, and we'll also talk about some of the downsides, some of the risks that you'll have with it. And so I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. I make these videos because I believe health is our most valuable asset. And if I can help you understand how your body works and point you in the right direction so you can actually get peptides from a 503A compounding pharmacy working with licensed providers, then I've done my job. So go to agelessfuture.com. My team will get you the right blood labs ran and pair you up with one of our medical team providers who will help you get the right strategy. And this means your peptide stacking, peptide pulsing. We'll also look at the right regenerative medicine for you and get you with the nutritional and fitness team. There's 4 major benefits of Epitalon. First, telomere elongation and telomerase activation in the human somatic cells. Now, this was confirmed by 2 independent studies. The second thing we're going to talk about is melatonin rhythm restoration. So what does that mean, Ray? If you're not sleeping great, then we got to get the circadian rhythms rebooted. And that's governed by melatonin and cortisol. And then third, we're going to talk about anti-senescent effects of human stem cells. These are measurable reductions in the cellular proteins that force cells into dormancy. And it's senescence. So senescence is when that cell lineage just expires. And then you have these zombie cells that just secrete all these nasty molecules that tell your body that, hey, Reagan's getting old. Y'all may as well call it quits and throw in the towel. So you want these senescent cells out of your body. And then the fourth thing that we'll talk about in relation to Epitalon is antioxidant protection. Now, this is interesting because this is where the true longevity benefits may exist, because this antioxidant production through the NRF2 pathway and direct reduction of oxidative DNA damage markers, like these well documented. I'm not just kind of throwing things out there, but these are what we're going to talk about today because you can find it in peer-reviewed journals. And what I have to tell you is that these are some of the largest human outcome data in longevity medicine. And so there's a differentiation between epithalamin, which is a natural bovine pineal extract, versus the synthetic bioregulator Epitalon. And these are not identical compounds. Yes, the Epitalon was what Dr. Covinson and his team discovered. The Epitalon was the active component of these amino acids in epithalamin. So some of these have been studied on epithalamin, and they can't be directly transferred to synthetic Epitalon. But you can kind of surmise that there's going to be some very similar overlaps. It's kind of like the difference between thymosin beta-4 and TB500. Thymosin beta-4 is the long 40 plus amino acid chain, I believe 44, and TB500 is the 15 active amino acids that is called TB500. So I'll use these, but just be aware of that nuance because the distinction does matter, and we'll get back to it. So in the long duration mortality data by Dr. Covinson and Dr. Morozov, it was published in Neuroendocrinology Letters in 2003. They followed 266 elderly subjects aged 60 to 74, and they followed them for 6 to 8 years, so very long study. Subjects received bioregulators, the epithalamin, thymulin, and or combined therapies during the first 2 to 3 years. And then what they found in the epithalamin alone, that reduced the 6-year mortality by 1.6 to 1.8 times versus controlled. Whereas the thymus gland, so these thymolins come from the thymus gland. So that's part of your immune training center. Think of it as like the training ground for your FBI and CIA and all the intelligence of your immune system. It sits right on top of your sternum. But as we age, it involutes. It gets smaller and smaller. And this is one of the things that leads to cellular senescence and immune senescence, where our immune system loses its intelligence. So by combining the epithalamin, so that's from the pineal gland, and then you've got the thymolin, this is from the thymus gland. You combine those peptides together and you get an even better effect. So the thymolin alone, what they found is that it reduced the mortality rate by 2 to 2.1 times. And then when you combine the two, it was 2.5. It was 2.5 times of the reduction of death. So the annual combined courses over 6 years produced approximately 4.1 times mortality reduction. Now this is substantial. So I want to be precise. This was unblinded, is not placebo control. They're just following cohorts, not randomized. It was conducted by the same group that developed the compound, so there could be some conflict of interest, but it's not been independently replicated. So just take that into context, but it still represents this kind of substantial long-term duration data set, like in humans, like, does this actually work? So other studies, now fast forward. So cellular anti-senescent mechanism. Now this was published by Dr. Cobinson in 2020, and this was done in vitro using human periodontal ligament stem cells and gingival mesenchymal stem cells across multiple passage levels. So passage is number of proxy for cellular age. So the more passages, the older your cells get. And Epitalon reduced the senescent marker P16 by 1.56 times and P21 by 2.2 times in the periodontal stem cells after the 25th passage. That's pretty amazing. Once again, this is in vitro, so it's in a petri dish. In gingival stem cells, the P16 fell 1.9 times and P21 fell 2.4 times, with p-values below 0.01. P16 and P21, these are the cellular brake pedals. They halt cell division and push cells into senescence. So if you can just pull off the brakes and then keep replicating these cells, that's where you can really have some dramatic changes. Other studies, in 2025, telomerase studies, this was the longest duration human data set when it comes to any of these performance peptides. And what they found is that Epitalon, it not only did it help lengthen telomeres, substantially lengthen telomeres, but they also found that it did that by not lengthening telomeres on cancerous cells, because it works through a completely different mechanism of action. Now at Ageless Future, the way we use Epitalon is we use it as a very core process for resetting what we call the HPA axis. So if you've read my book, The Peptide Blueprint, then you've probably heard me talk about the reset. The first 60 days is where we want to get the right labs ran, and then we got to reset the stress response in your nervous system. And so the very first labs we're going to check is your hemoglobin A1C, your C-peptide, your insulin fasting. We're going to look at your cholesterol, your LDL, your apolipoprotein B. We're going to look at all of the thyroid markers and hormones and get a baseline. And then once we do that, then we'll start using peptides like Epitalon, because Epitalon's been around for a long time. We have not found any significant side effects. Some people, if you've got some of the reverse wiring, you may not sleep as well on it, but the majority of people, over 90%, have phenomenal sleeps on Epitalon. It's not a peptide you got to stay on long term. You usually do a cycle of 10 days, then you pull off and then do it again every 6 months. So if you love what you've learned about Epitalon and you'd like to go deeper, I've got another video on what Epitalon does for sleep, and we'll provide a link in the show notes below. For those of you who want to go deeper and get your blood labs ran and really have an operating system that you can count on for your health and longevity plan, go to agelessfuture.com, set up your free intro call, and my team will take great care of you. I'll see you on the next video.